Echo, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor for this series. So this is the Cisco Ethical Hacker track. We've been going through the very first module, the second, the third. We've looked at who an ethical hacker is, the kind of job, the kind of task, a similar kind of organization. What kind of organization can you work in? Where can you work at? And what is pen testing? What are the different types of pen testing? What are the different methodologies? And we're trying to look at the different stages. And for this module, we want to look at social engineering attack. All of the different types of attacks that we can have when we do social engineering. Of course, this is still at the very footprinting stage. This is at the stage of gathering information, collecting information, and we are going to be trying to look at some details of the series, and we have some practices. We also have some labs which will enable us do better in the certification. So if you are following this series, you want to make sure that you subscribe so that when I drop additional modules, you can be aware. And also, if you have questions in the series, you can do well to just ask in the sections, in the comment sections, and I'm going to give you a reply. Okay, so there's some practices that you want to get into. How do you do pretexting? How do you do pivot attack? The different types of social engineering attacks. So we have dumpster diving, shoulder surfing, eavesdropping. All of these are different ways that social engineering can be done. We also have some call spoofing tools. Then for the lab sessions, as we've been going through, we are going to be looking at the social engineering toolkits, then of course the browser exploitation framework. Then of course you do a quiz, and at the end of the day, this can culminate to helping you pass the exam. Okay, so for this module, let's start from social engineering attack. So we have some objectives. How do pretexting work in social engineering? What are the different types of social engineering attacks? Then what are the different types of physical attacks, right? Then, of course, which kind of tools can facilitate these attacks? And how can the attack actually enlist user participation? So let's look at pretexting for an approach and impersonation. Now, when it comes to social engineering, see, the goal is that you are saying that you are piggybacking on that human idea of helping people. You know, humans, we want to always help people around us. We want to make sure that people don't get into issues, people don't get into problems. And that is already a flaw on its own. It's a flaw on its own. When people want to assist others, it can result to a flaw. When people want to assist others, when people want to provide information to others, that can result to a flaw. And that is where social engineering gets interesting. Now, and that's why we also say that social engineering is the weakest link, because it's that human aspect. So no matter how best your IT infrastructure is, no matter how superb it is, no matter the kind of software you use to deploy and to protect your applications, your network, your enterprise, at the end of the day, if the people, right, if the people that drive your organization, right, so if they are vulnerable to social engineering, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a mess of everything. So you want to make sure that you have these guys trained. You want to make sure that these guys understand what social engineering is, and they're not going to fall for those attacks. So what are the different ways it can be done? So we have elicitation, we have impersonation, and of course we have interrogation. So these are the different ways we can do social engineering. So you elicit, you want to try to gain information from them, right? You want to try to gain information from them. What's wrong with my pen? My pen seems to be acting up. Just a second. So elicitation is going to be you trying to elicit information or trying to grab information from the individuals within that enterprise, from individuals within that company, right? So that's one way you can gather information, because we say there are 5 stages of hacking. You have information gathering, footprinting, reconnaissance, you have scanning, you have gaining access, you have maintaining access, and you also have clearing tracks. So before any hack can happen, first of all, you have to do a lot of information gathering to at least ascertain the digital asset. What are you going to be after? What is the goal? And what is your hack value? So one thing you can do is to ask for the information. You can ask for the information. And once you ask for the information, it can now give you chances of actually grabbing those information from the individuals. Then another thing is interrogation. So here the person is trying to interact with the victim to see if he can be successful. The next thing is impersonation. So this is where, first of all, you have several information about individuals in the organization. Then somebody now tries to act as somebody from the organization or a partner or a third party. They now try to get information. So don't forget what they are after is actually PIIs, is personal identifiable information. So this is what they might be after. They might be after some PIIs, right? That's what they might be after. Now, let's look at social engineering attacks. So social engineering can be accomplished through email or misdirecting somebody to another website and prompting the user to click on something that leads to other information. That's why phishing is a way you can also do social engineering. So you could use some of these attacks in combination with phishing to try to lure somebody to like put in information where the person is not supposed to put information. So if you have web skills, you can use either the set, the social engineering toolkit, or you can just create an application. What's the application going to do? So you have an application, and what's actually wrong? Okay, maybe I just use my mouse. So you have an application, and this application, it's not the real application, it's the fake application. Then of course you have individuals. These individuals, they are going to try to access this site that is a fake website. Then you might have username, password, then submit button. So upon clicking the submit button, you can now redirect them to the actual website. So they are going to be thinking, okay, what's actually happening? Why didn't these guys, what's wrong with them? Why didn't they allow me to get into the website? They now reattempt to like enter the information and the password. By that time, you've already logged this information, right? And that cannot be used for scrupulous purposes. Now, this is how attackers will actually work. So the job of a security analyst is to try to mitigate these attacks, is to try to ensure that these attacks don't get implemented. And it can happen by you training the employees of the organization to make sure that they are safe. So you have different methodologies, you have different methods. So with phishing, like I said earlier on, the user presents a link, right, an attachment that looks like the valid or trusted resource. That's why some of the countermeasures for this is that you shouldn't click on any link that you just see. It might not be the actual link, it might not be the right link. Then we say spear phishing if it's directed to targeted individuals within the company, right? So you just send the particular email to maybe a director or maybe a CEO, maybe a head of a department and all of that. Then whaling, you're going to be targeting it to high-profile business executives or individuals. Then phishing is if it's going to be a short voice note message or a phone conversation. So you're able to differentiate the different types of social engineering attacks. Then we'll call it smishing if it's going to be an SMS. An SMS that's going to lure somebody to go and click on a malicious link. Then we have what we call the USB drop key, when you put script puts information, put whatever that can be loaded on the PC or on the system, and it just drops randomly within the enterprise. Somebody picks it, want to know who have this flash drive, who have this USB, what is inside and whatever. By the time the person is putting it into the system, it can load the particular page, or it can have files that want you to open it. When you open it, it wants you to click it, and that cannot result to an attack. Now we have watering hole attack. So this is targeted at this will always occur when an attacker profiles websites that intended victim access, right? So one of the first thing the attacker is going to do is to try to gather information about what are the kind of recent website or individual websites that ordinarily the company individuals will visit. If we have that particular list, then those websites can be compromised. I've seen situations whereby we try working on the particular application or a particular website for a company, and what happens is that the entire site, once you implement some security measures, it redirects you to another website. So you call that watering hole attack. So watering hole attack are often designed to profile users of specific organizations. And like I said, one of the ways you can try to mitigate this is education. So education is so crucial if you want to prevent social engineering attacks. Now let's look at physical attacks. So like I always say, you can't do cybersecurity without understanding some aspects of physical security. Physical security is so crucial because you no matter your servers, no matter your people, no matter your systems, no matter your infrastructure, is going to sit within a physical environment. So as a penetration tester or a red teamer, you might be asked to like simulate and see what is vulnerable in the company's infrastructure in terms of the building, the infrastructure, the systems employee. So it then means that you will try to see if you can gain access physically without being caught. So, when we say pen testing, we're trying to simulate an attack to see if it's going to be possible. If it's possible, we pen down all of the vulnerabilities we found out. If it's not possible, we can have pen down all the things we learned and how to make the system better. So for physical attacks, we're trying to go to say, okay, the access door, the access control, the biometric system, all of those things, do they work? Or can somebody bypass it? Because if somebody can bypass that, what's going to happen is that the system can be compromised. Now, there's this concept about piggybacking. So piggybacking is where somebody takes the tag of another person to try to gain entry. So tailgating is essentially the same, but it's one difference. So for tailgating, it's without the authorized person's consent. It's just like there's a gate, there's an access system, and somebody's following you behind and gets through. I was watching a video on social media a few days ago where there's an access control to like a stadium evening hall, and somebody just swiped his card, entered, and somebody behind entered following him. So that's what we call tailgating, right? So piggybacking and tailgating can be defeated through the use of access control vestibule. But I've seen where this can also be compromised if you don't have a system where it can allow only one person at a time. So if more than one person can access one at a time, then it can be compromised. Or if you implement multiple factor authentication in conjunction with the vestibule, like you do an iris scan, then before you have the swipe card for the vestibule, that's going to work. Right? For dumpster diving, the goal here is that we're trying to look at the garbage, we're trying to look at the dust bins, we're trying to look at all the recycling systems to see if we can see very information. I've seen companies that, because they want to have very secure passwords, all the passwords they have for the organization, because it's very, very long, and they normally type it out, they will laminate the paper, keep it securely, like the system admin is going to be in charge of that and all of that. The question is, anytime you are not around or you try to keep that information, can it be kept carelessly, or if, for instance, you have payroll data is going to show how much everybody is earning within the organization, who is earning more, who is a likely target, who keeps money, who is the accountant, all of that information. You might have that in the payroll. And if you have that, when you've done with all of those, maybe scrutiny or audit of the document, how do you discard that? So the most important thing you should be doing, you should be checking is, are those information, did they trade them? So dust diving is going to see, or the diver is going to see if he can find information on paper, right? On hard disks or removable media. So the idea is to make sure that you have good disposal of these items. So that's going to ensure that you have much security. And there's another one we call shoulder surfing. So very interesting. So this is where PII can be compromised, right? Personal identifiable information. So that consists of your usernames, your password, your IDs, your bank account, and all of that. Things that are personal, confidential. And the idea is that when somebody is shoulder surfing, somebody is looking through your shoulders or over your shoulder to try to see if he can gather information, as well as ATM machines over your shoulder when you're entering your password for your PC. At times, kids do this a lot. You have your phone, they look over your shoulder and see when you're entering your password to catch up your password. So is a kind of physical attack because it's nothing digital. It's just something like the tailgating and the others. So user awareness and training, like I said, is always key anytime you want to mitigate some of these social engineering attacks. So batch cloning, so most cards are going to use NFC or RFID, different kind of access control cards that we can use for accessing systems, like the one that's being used in hotels, in stadiums, and in some big buildings. If you want to access them, you have a card, you have to swipe it to be able to get access into it. So what about if it's cloned? Just like you have ATM clone, what about if it is cloned? All of these things are going to be things that attackers are going to do. And your job as a cybersecurity analyst is to see what measures can you utilize to prevent this. And I can tell you for sure is that defense in depth is very key anytime we're looking at putting measures. Just like we had a live session on the Ethical Hacker series yesterday. And I made students to understand that if you just have one method of access control, if you just have one method of implementing security for your system, it's not going to be a way to make that system secure. You have to implement multiple ways. You have to employ what we call defense in depth, right? You want to have method 1, you want to have method 2, you want to have method 3, you want to have method 4. You want to have like an onion security. So you secure at this point of entry, you secure at this point of entry, you secure at this point of entry before you get to the target, right? So this is going to ensure that there are several ways you authenticate people. There are several ways you check people before they enter the building. Right, so tools. What are differential engineering tools? So in module 10, we are going to look at tools and code analysis. So we're going to leave that for the time being, but we can note some of the tools. Some of the tools are SET. So in the lab sessions, we're going to be using SET as a social engineering toolkit. It's part of Kali. We could use that. This was developed by David Kennedy. So we can use this to try to clone an application, try to create something that somebody can try to access, and we can deploy an exploit, and we can see if social engineering attack actually works for an organization or for the people that work in an organization. You can also create your own social engineering scripts. You could create your script, you could clone your script to try to test and simulate these attacks in an organization to see if it actually works. Because like I said, your job is to see if an organization is vulnerable or if some persons are vulnerable to some certain types of attack, and you want to see how education can play a role in mitigating these attacks. So this, we're going to run through this in the lab session. Another one is BEEF. So BEEF is Browser Exploitation Framework. So this is going to be for you to check for XSS attacks. Now, you should understand that this is part of the OWASP top 10, whether you're trying to do misconfiguration, whether you're trying to do SQL injection, whether you're trying to do XSS, this is part of the OWASP tool. And on the channel, I'm going to do a series later on the top 10 and see how to use scripts to learn either known scripts or already done application, or you creating scripts for you to like fully understand those top 10. So XSS attacks is something that can be exploited, and you can use the BEF tool to try to get that knowledge. Okay. So we're going to run through this in the lab sessions. Okay, so code spoofing apps. So there are some apps that you have on Android or what's it called on iOS. Don't forget, this is for educational purposes. This is going to actually easily change the caller ID that is displayed on the phone. So you can try them out and let us know what you think in the comment section. So these are two labs that we're going to be working on. So let's look at method of influence. Now, you want to know how an attacker will try to grab information. You know, if you're doing reconnaissance and footprinting, there are several methodologies. So you have social engineering, you have Wiz, you have Google Hacking Docs, you have what's it called? You have quite a lot of them. So, but for social engineering, what are those things that the attacker can do to try to gather this information? So one thing you want to be looking out for in case you're training your team is to tell them to look out for authority. When the social engineer tries to show some level of confidence, of course, confidence, you know, just somebody like somebody trying to say, do you know who I am? Do you know I can do this? Do you know I'm the person that is your boss friend? All of those kind of stuff. Or when the person is like sending the message and creating some sense of scarcity and urgency. When the person is trying to do some social proof to try to say, okay, somebody else we just got the information from your boss or the information from your head of IT, then we need to get yours also. So the person is trying to take advantage that somebody else have done similar thing and want you to also do the same thing. Likeness. That's why undue advantage is going to be granted to persons that are vulnerable to like anybody, everybody just liking you, wanting to be your friend. And if the hack values, take for instance, $10,000, that is the benefits for the hacker. What's going to happen is that if the social engineer tries to send out $1,500, he is not losing because the goal is far about 10 times more than that. So the person can lose that. So social engineers are going to strive for others to like the way they behave, look, talk, or what they do. And they can use cash, they can use money to buy that. Now, fear is another way that the social engineer can try to influence the users to release information, right? If you don't act promptly, you're going to lose that. I get this kind of mails so often. I just delete them, trash them, or block those IPs. So they want to tell you that okay, if you don't send so and so, so this can be used. This technique can be used in conjunction with ransomware, delivering a kind of a ransomware, or acting like you have a ransomware attack when you don't have any. They can tell you, okay, if you don't release, your information is going to be locked. You're not going to be able to access it again. So all of these are the different methods that they can use. It's a very short module. This is just an aspect of information gathering. So some of the things we learned is the concept of pretexting, impersonation, what constitutes social engineering physical attacks, and how do they perform some of these attacks. We looked at some of the tools, the SET and the BEF. We're going to do that in the lab series. Then how attackers can gain information from users or victims, and some social engineering tools, and the different types of influence that they can use, the different types of method they can use to like grab information from users. So please be safe out there. If you have questions on the social engineering module, you could ask in the comment section. I'm going to reply you. So I'm going to be going on with the series till we are done with the very 10th module, and we're going to have the lab series separately, about 20 labs. The series is ongoing. You can contact us to see if you're going to join the live sessions so that you have access to that. If you're also interested in joining either our cybersecurity, data engineering, cloud computing, project management, we have several internships, group-based internship, small room, either physical or remote. You can also contact us and join those rooms. Thank you very much and see you in the next session.